Welcome to Beyond the Dragon, where we explore indie tabletop role-playing games and their design, to inspire you to play them or take what you like for your own creations. Hi there, my name is Oscar C. Tango.
And my name is Sun.
And with us today, we have a very special guest.
Hello, I'm Matthew Pauze, a storyteller for hire and a avid fan of game design.
Yes, and we are all tabletop game designers and professional game masters who love TTRPGs, and today we will be discussing hacking Knave to make our own games. So we have brought my guild master for the paid GMing thing that I do on with us today because he has a lot of game knowledge. More game knowledge than I care to delve into sometimes. So, to start things off, we're going to be hacking Knave, the first game we ever did on this channel, and we're going to be doing something similar every 20 episodes or so. And this is being recorded on the day of episode 16 to give ourselves 4 weeks to go out and write a game with, in this case, Knave. And then after those 4 weeks, we're going to come back and we're going to read all our games, and we'll have 3 goals, a setting and a genre, and we're going to see if we all met those goals in the setting and genre. And from there, we're going to critique each other's games. And on your end, that's going to be all in the same episode. On our end, it's going to be like a month apart at least. So with that done, Sun, would you like to introduce your game concept?
Sure thing. So, my setting themes genre is you are skeletal creatures that roam around a world of relics and pick up pieces to replace your own bone machines to suit their needs. Your original body is only temporary. It's a big eat small world out here. Get bigger or get smarter, otherwise you're nothing but a walking catalogue of parts. My 3 goals are to make the inventory the character sheet. What you carry is what you are. I'm heavily focusing on the emphasis of the inventory slot idea in Knave. Number 2 is making combat not just about defeating the enemies, but saving the good parts of them. Combat as a puzzle. Enemies themselves are items. And then 3, to reward an exploration loot and shoot, or fight playstyle. And I had some concept names, but now I'm leaning to one already, Bone Machines.
All right. That sure sounds like it's going to be an experience to fucking play. I cannot wait to read this. And
I'm enthralled with the concept of that.
yeah, just loot your enemy's body and install it. What a fucking concept.
Yes, and when I mean the inventory is the character sheet, I mean you only have the character sheet. The stats, you have to get an item for that. You know, everything is something you put into your inventory.
Oh my
You
God.
have a D20 and your inventory, that's it.
Your entire character sheet could be cards of items you've collected.
Exactly.
And then, Matthew, what about your game?
Well, I'm 2.5 pages into the system, and I'm coming up with... So, we have this species of demon that has infected the world. These swamp dwellers who are immune to poison. And over the years, they kind of have breed out a lot of their nastiness and dangerousness, and now they're trying to be useful with the world. The only real abilities they have is their immunity to poison and the fact they live in one of the most dangerous territories of the kingdom. So, they've come up with a wise idea. We are going to create some of the most potent poisons in the world and sell them to assassin guilds. So you are a group of kind of swamp-dwelling, partly demonic creatures that are going out into the swamp trying to harvest all the different poisons from these creatures through insects or having it injected into your own body through fighting them or hunting them down, coming back, extracting this poison, and trying to make a quick copper. In addition to this, so some of my goals to this, what I want to design is to create a dark evolution system where these creatures can use the parts from the animals they have and different poisons to mutate and adapt themselves. I want there to be swamp hunting, rules for kind of traversing the swamp, dealing with nasties that can do things other than poison you, which is one of the reasons, it makes this dangerous, and having an unwanted but needed protagonist that the characters represent, being these kind of demonic creature descendants. setting is a
Interesting.
swamp. Go ahead.
Oh no, just interesting. Like, I like it.
So for setting, I'm hoping it to be set in a swamp. Themes include like poison, demon blooded beings. So whether these are like far descendants or nearby, I haven't quite decided. And I want the genre to be biopunk. You are evolving your body in order to survive better. Maybe even one day leave the swamp and not be murdered by the kingdom. Maybe that's the goal.
I like that last mention of biopunk because it'll be interesting to see how you do it because I guess I'm doing kind of a biopunk type of situation too. So it'll be interesting to see how we both develop our own ideas there. A really good breakdown for someone that was asked if they wanted to do this like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm reading through the system. It seems it's got some good bones at the base, so I'm excited to see how this goes.
Mm.
Yeah, he got he bought Knave today and was like, "Yo, I'm down. Let's go."
No, today it doesn't do it as service.
Like
He bought
like
Knave
5
minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and printed out Knave as well.
Oh yeah, because reading from a screen is a struggle. So yeah, it's got to be printed.
So good job on that.
Yeah.
What about you, Oscar?
Yeah. So for mine, mine is going to be called Rad Divers. The concept is that very much like immediate post-nuclear war, where the radiation levels are way too high, people are going to try and go in and clear out a hot zone so that they can survive, and then from there build a self-sustaining base. So it's going to be a base builder and survival type game in a post-nuclear apocalypse. Goal-wise, I really want to focus on limited gear being very important because you need to bring a lot of stuff with you to clear out a place if you're going to be looting it for things that you need to survive, or clearing it out so that you have space to live there and expand a little bit. And also then, you know, if you're bringing a lot of stuff in to survive, how much can you afford to bring out? So that real balance of what's the bare minimum we need to survive versus how likely are we to die? And in that same vein, lethality from the environment I want to be a very big theme. Rather than combat being the main source of danger, I want it to be things like tears in the armor, collapsing buildings, or poisons and acids, so that just traveling in the dungeon is a main danger, where combat is a last resort because it is almost guaranteed to be incredibly lethal, if not just so dangerous that odds of survival are slim. And then from there, I want to add in a downtime system for building up and prepping your home and dealing with the people who are there so that you can at least try to get things into a self-sustaining state.
I like it. Very interested to see how the building side of this will work in Knave, like with the inventory and all that stuff.
You have combined one of my greatest fears with one of my greatest loves of RPGs. So I don't know whether to be terrified of this game or, you know, full forward, have to play this for a week.
Well, what's the fear?
Nuclear radiation.
Yeah,
I find
not
it
a fun
terrifying. Yeah, with a kind of town building mechanic. So I have to try this game, but geez. Ugh.
Yeah, it's gonna be a time. Well, the good news is that I do plan to have things that you can bring to clean out the radiation. It just may be like, you know, wow, this place is incredibly hot. It's going to be like 6 hours for this machine to clean it out, and we only have enough like equipment to survive 2 hours in this zone. So we better set things up fast and bail and just hope nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, hope nothing mutates, or, you know, the machine doesn't break down, and when we come back, we don't all liquefy our insides.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just for a clarification for everyone that is listening, we are going to be largely isolated from each other in terms of talking about our games, just so we don't like influence situations. And like, sure, we'll keep in touch and make sure everyone's like on track, but we're going to keep the building of the game behind curtains up until basically the very end.
But
I was not aware about this, but I am thrilled now.
All right, good to know. But yeah, so with that all being said and done, for us it's going to be about 4 weeks. But for those listening now, we will be seeing you momentarily. So look forward to that.
See you then.
And welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Dragon. It is now 4 weeks later. I have with me, once again, Matthew Pauze, who thank you for joining us, Matthew, and Sun, as usual.
Hello, hello.
Woohoo!
But yes, so we have written 3 games. The very goal of our entire challenge. So we're going to start off in the same order that we introduced them, starting off with Matthew's game, Swamp Knave.
All right. So I looked over Knave, and a couple things came to my head. And with the goals I made last time, I created this setting where you are descendants of these poison demons who are shunned from reality, but they have given you this swamp land to kind of try and thrive and grow, with kind of the joke that it will kill you off. Most creatures there will be poisonous. I did a beastry of some stats for these. I did some sites. I tried to work in a larva transformation thing where you could breed these monstrosities of closest to magical items for the setting. And the idea is you go out into the swamp, you try and get loot, bring it back, and then you sort through what you find based on what you can carry and exchange it for coin. I think that covers it pretty much of what I produced.
Yeah, and very well built to the Knave loop of going out into dangerous places, getting valuable things, and coming back.
Yes, just this time those things might start growing on you, or you choose to make them grow on you.
Indeed.
No, yeah. This is my first proper read through of a game that you have made, because I know you've started on something for the Lumen Jam, but I was very curious on your attempt at writing for an OSR based game, since I know you're not really a part of that community or run those types of games.
Absolutely. And I tried to keep to the mechanics I had without trying to import from something else. It was an interesting experience. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I didn't get as much of the project done as I wanted. Like it feels very bare bones and people would have to fill in some of the blanks, but it was very much a learning experience just to get something done and say it's done. And I think OSR
Yes.
is great for these mini kind of supplements.
No,
It is.
definitely. With that, do you have any other thoughts, Oscar?
I very much liked Swamp Knave. No, it was very interesting to see this is your first time with OSR really or Knave, and you were like, yeah, here's a Knave game. Look at how it does all the Knave things. And I'm like, shit, I don't think my first Knave game did that well.
It's about a page short of keeping up with Knave, so it's super short. The goal was to finish, and I feel as bare bones as it is, it can be finished. People could take this, start running, and fill in the blanks as they go.
Yeah, no, they could.
Yeah, and for those that have Knave, which I assume most people would if they're looking at Knave hacks, probably, they can always supplement the gaps with the original rule system itself.
Very true. One thing I think that came across as very interesting on my first read through that I went back and double checked, you expanded on your goals by adding in a system that I was like, wait, hold on, this is it fits perfectly, but it's completely new. This wasn't even mentioned as a potential system, and that was your manuscript system. Or manual?
Yeah.
Manuals. Yeah, the manuals.
Yeah, so one thing that blew me away about Knave is you have spell books that give you spells just by holding the spell book and using it. I'm like, that is goddamn amazing. But as adventurers, not all adventurers are smart. But there's a lot of lore about finding herbs and rare metals and doing some really cool stuff and people having reference guides. And I didn't see that in Knave, and I felt I wanted it to be an option. At one point I was hoping to change it so that, you could have a herbalism guide so when you collect plant loot, you could increase its quality. But I felt that was getting a little beyond the process of Kiss. For those who haven't heard it, keep it simple, stupid. I need to like plaster that on everything I do because it will get horribly complicated if I don't. But yeah, it was a step in that direction.
No, thank you for mentioning that, Oscar. Yeah, out of everything in this small little landscape 5-page PDF, manuals is my standout. I think it builds very nicely off the spell book as an item thing that Knave does, and you've made crafting very approachable. I just need to have this book on me, and it tells me this exact thing that I can make, type of thing. I think
That,
it's
that-
really nice.
thank you. Thank you. I think it would do better in a system that wasn't Swamp Knave. It feels more like an add-on to me than something that fits in that world. But I think it goes great with Knave in general.
No, I think
Yeah,
it fits.
Oh,
Yeah,
You're in a swamp. You got to make your own weapons sometimes. You know it's not like hanging out in the swamp. You're going to be running across like spare swords and crossbows. So no, sometimes you got to take some bones, make a knife, and stab a motherfucker with it. You know?
yeah, and just because it says manuals doesn't need to be a book. It could be a fancy piece of bark
Mm-hmm.
of the instructions.
fair enough. Fair enough. So it was really just an aesthetic change I need to make.
Yeah. No,
But no,
like
like
absolutely.
yeah, if there was one thing I would take that yes, to your credit, it does stand out, but I think it still works well within the concept of your game. That can be just pulled out, and plugged into a different Knave game.
In
Um,
oh yes, so,
go ahead.
oh I was gonna move on to actually like talking about the goals.
Yes,
Oh
so was
yeah.
I. So, do you want to reiterate your goals?
Let's see. Gotta open up that document. The goals we set out 4 weeks ago was I was to create a dark evolution system. Should I say all the goals or should we go through one by one?
Either or, dealer's choice.
All right. Second was that there is swamp hunting. And the third was that there was unwanted but needed protagonists.
So in terms of goals, I think you nailed swamp hunting.
No, yeah,
Fair?
I think so. You've got the loot system, where people are finding bits and pieces that they have to bring it back to exchange for usable currency, or potentially then feeding into the next goal, which was the Dark Evolution system. I think you've got a nice little, a very small little mini scavenger loop going on. So I think it works.
Excellent.
Yeah, and with the brief bit of history of the swamp you gave, the idea of characters being unwanted, because it's like, here, live in this swamp, scum. You aren't allowed out of it. As for them being needed, I mean, I can kind of see it, especially with like trading for the symbionts. Was like, you know, that's an expensive deal. You have to get a lot to trade for that. I remember somewhere it was like
Yeah.
triples would get you symbionts.
They get you a larva and then you have to grow it.
So that
Which,
does, yeah, that does kind of get towards needed because it's clear that characters are getting something really valuable for what they do.
Like out of all the goals, I think that one is probably the least clear. And yeah, like with one more like redo would probably, yeah, you could just add in like an extra paragraph or two, and then you'd be all good. But yeah, I think
absolutely.
with these characters being the ones to basically be a part of the progression and growing of the symbionts and all that, and the collectors, and bring them back, and the little town building thing that I did want to mention, you and your town building.
It's an obsession.
Indeed.
Buy a
But no,
hovel.
I think you still hit it.
Excellent. Well, even
And
if not, two out of three isn't bad. That's a C plus, right?
indeed,
Please-
but
Yeah.
then let's talk about to create a dark evolution system. We've just mentioned it, but the symbionts. And
Yes.
the way you collect these flesh creation based things is like lava. You can breed them onto, like, you can grow them from a host or in a hovel in a pit and the like, and then they become different types of objects. It's definitely
Yeah.
leads into the biopunk theme that you were going for as well.
This is when I read Knave, this is the system that came to mind was these symbiotes. I wish I had fleshed it out more, but yeah, you grow these things that take on forms and then you have to attach them to yourself, which makes you look grotesque and terrifying and reduces the number of henchmen you can have with you.
Mm, mm.
I
And
like how you
I
read
like that
Knave.
you added that in there. Yeah.
I like how you're like, I'm gonna read Knave. All right, cool. You're robbing tombs. I'm gonna attach horrible flesh things to you. It'll be great.
Yeah, well, my brain is weird.
I definitely like how you think that, because it's definitely a different way of interpreting the wavelength I was on with item swaps being like literally a part of you.
I also loved that idea.
Yeah, and the
No,
different
I
spots
really like it.
with the trait costs for different spots. So like, oh, this is a mask trait if you have it here.
Hmm.
Mm, mm.
It plays very good homage to Knave's traditional inventory system.
And like I think you gave enough examples that people can build upon that if you weren't going to give any more.
I'm my goal was to have like 30 or 40 of these, but once I had written everything and realized, oh shit, it's 3 days till this is due. I should, put some examples of everything in.
Actually, since you mentioned it, do you want to? Do you have an estimate of how long you took on this?
To be honest, actually, I can tell you because I track all the time of all my RPG projects.
Oh, do you use like Toggle or something?
I do. I use Toggle because I
Yeah.
do paid GMing as a business, so each game gets so much time to just keep me sane. So I can go into the project
Fair
and
enough.
find out.
While you look at that,
Yeah.
yeah, the hovels. I saw that and just chuckled to myself. It's like, there it is. There's a little bit of town building. But no, that's another part that I'm like, okay, that can be put into, other Knave-based games because it's not so entrenched in the theming that, a couple things can be reworded and the like.
Buy a hovel,
Um,
invest in a meat shop.
Exactly.
so what day did we start this?
Technically speaking, let's see here. What's today? The 16th, I believe we would have
Mhm.
started it around November 1st. Or no, actually in like late October, because I remember the due date was November 11th. So 21 days
Mm,
before the 11th of November.
So I
yeah.
put 10 hours into this, and that's it.
Not bad. About 2 hours a
And
page.
yeah,
Yep.
not bad at all. I think that's a
And that's
great.
between writing, typing, and editing. So you kind of get what you put in.
Mhm. No, that's a good effort with what you've provided. 10 hours, especially with all the other stuff you're doing. I think this is a great result, and the fact that you've provided some sites. So you've provided gameable stuff of like, okay, here's a village, here's like a adventuring location, here's a couple of adventuring locations. A random encounter table for this, some hooks, loot for that village and the like. You haven't just provided just a toolkit, but a little bit more that people can use immediately to attempt to play this game.
Yeah,
I'm
even
not
monsters.
great at writing long histories, so I like to present things that are in the world to get the same feel across. But that's
Mm,
just
mm,
me.
yeah.
But yeah.
Um,
Mostly, go ahead.
Oscar.
Oh no, Sun first.
I was merely just gonna ask, like, did you have any uh like what you learned or anything like that? I was wanting to go into the wrap up if we had anything else to talk about.
Okay, what I feel I've learned, that these small projects, getting them done, are a huge boost of inspiration to go back to my bigger projects and get a shit ton done. Sorry for cursing. I've been trying to watch myself. Damn it.
I
Oh,
said
no, no, no.
motherfuckers earlier.
Fair.
Yeah,
Good. Good. Oh, thank
it's all
God.
good. It's all good.
Like that's the word that I lose out on. God damn it. All right, yeah. So no, I think I will do more of these little projects, and it was great to have a system chosen for me and some restrictions put on to get something done. Like the goal was just to make sure this got finished because I have a graveyard of dozens and dozens of projects that are 50 to 70% done.
That's such a mood. It hurts.
Mm. What would you do differently, or what would you add on, like if you were to do a second edition or just continue on?
Well, I'd love to get some more manuals and some more abilities for these symbiotes and tie them more to the equipment. Maybe add a couple more hovels, but we have kind of a starter thing there. I would love to take like a site and build it out with a number of hovels available and make like a small, not adventure, but like, what did they call that when it used to be West Marches? The kind of home base that people could develop. So people could just slap it down and like add their hovels as they buy them out and convert them and show what their town looks like, and like have cards for the manuals so GMs could deal them out like loot and people could keep them
Okay.
hidden.
I don't think that's really West Marches, but I do understand what you're talking about there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
like it's not West Marches, but the central fort that West March would be centered around. There was a term for it
yeah.
I heard recently, and I just can't recall it.
Yeah. Yeah. The home base that all West Marches base, yeah, are centered around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No. Okay.
actually,
What about you, Oscar?
I'm browsing it over now. It wasn't technically in the goals, which makes it funny that this is missing. A good thing for a second edition might be a actual equipment list.
Well, I did say in the first paragraph that use Knave as well.
Oh, true,
'cause-
true. No, you're right. That does get you that. And I mean, you do have bone knives. All you need to do is punch something to death, steal its bones, and make a knife.
Sounds very survivalist.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, Rexes. That's another story.
Uh, okay then. Well, I'm glad that this was a great experience for you.
Very much so. I was panicking the last couple days, but I got a lot done the last couple days. So
Hmm.
Fear is a
Hmm.
good motivator.
Indeed.
it was good to
definitely
do it with other
agree.
people I knew because seeing you guys get stuff done motivated me to keep going.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
my
That was huge.
occasional threats in chat about how long you guys had left.
Yeah. Which we'll get onto
Oh,
with mine
yes.
next.
Excellent.
All right. So next up is Bone Machines by Sun Gone. All right. So Bone Machines, Sun.
Yes. So, Bone Machines is my game. Bone Machines is a simplistic toolkit for the adventures of collection-based evolving skeletons in a relic-littered landscape that fight to overthrow the opulent ruling class. With this, I wanted to, make skeletal creatures that roam around a world of relics and just pick up pieces to replace their own bone machines to suit their needs. Your body is only temporary. And yeah, I wanted like kind of like a big eats small world. You need to get bigger or get smarter type of thing. Um, and so with Knave, what I immediately go to is the item slots and how what you carry is what you generally will do, what your role really is. So I heavily focus down on the item slots is literally what you are and what you can do.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You hit that.
no, I really enjoyed my time with Bone Machines was a mixture. I really enjoyed my time with it after a couple days of doing it. after a couple of days of finishing it. But during it, I was like, and then I go into a Zen state where it's like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go wild. So yeah, that was my experience during this. And I'll just tell you up front, I spent a maximum of this 3-week jam, 3 days maximum. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts?
So, I don't think I have enough bones to play this game. I get told to collect a lot of bones to be able to play it, and I don't have that many bones.
I see.
Is it a problem that I might? Anyways, one thing that confused me, I'm still trying to figure it out, is there is Sunder dice and Rip dice.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I read what it did, but my brain cannot seem to hold what the heck those mean.
Yep, Sunder dice are your just damage dice. They'll do damage, and your inventory will fill up with Sunder if there's no items there. And if there is an item, it'll do damage to the item. And then eventually, when it's broken, just fill it with a Sunder, with a brittle condition. The rip is basically it's the way of determining what item that you can potentially steal from them. That's the
Okay.
difference.
Okay, that makes way more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripping
Alright.
is to take something out, sundering is to do damage outright and destroy items, and then I believe it was diving is to place your own items inside.
Yeah, when you bury.
Bury, thank you.
Bury, yep.
And then stunts were based on intelligence, and you didn't call them stunts. You called them
Exploits.
exploits.
Yes.
And then... Oh, right, and then ranged sunder was with wisdom. You have an attack for every stat.
Yes, I tried. I was going through, and you know what? I was like, hang on. I want to try and make every stat usable here. So I tried my best.
I want to steal some of these mechanics and do a homage to Mega Man and like Warform.
Oh, I see. What's that? How so?
Well, it's also, is it Warform? Not Warform. Warframe.
Ah,
Where,
Okay.
yeah, where like you pick up and modify yourself to do things, which this does wonderfully.
it does.
Like it would almost just be a reflavoring for the most part.
Okay. Such is the way of a lot of these types of games.
Mm-hmm. You also are selling this one, right? This toolkit.
It is on itch. It's pay what you want.
Yes. People pay
and
money for this. It's worth money.
Some very kind person did pay money for it. So thank you to that one person.
Excellent.
Yes, and so, Son, you recently made a Tumblr. You made it after you finished this game. Did you make it explicitly to market the Skeleton War to people on Tumblr?
No, I did not think about any of that.
Because this is Skeleton War the RPG. As someone who is a big Skeleton War fanatic, this is Skeleton War the RPG. You can even retire your skeleton to become a new boss in the Skeleton War.
I think you've briefly mentioned this concept of the Skeleton War to me, but it's been so long, so I am completely out of it.
Alright, so for those of you who do not know your Tumblr culture, roughly around Halloween, people in Tumblr get excited for our own version of Halloween, the Skeleton War, where it is basically doctrine of Tumblr that when you die, your skeleton will leave your body and participate in a great war. The Skeleton War, where you will arm up and fight to the death in hell forever in the Skeleton War. And, I mean, this game seems very attuned to that because players will level up to become bosses and then you fight them in your own Skeleton War. It's just skeletons going around and recycling each other as they continue to wage battle. It's beautiful.
Out of all the rules, that was my one thing where I'm like, no, I need that. I need to have that in, and I think it works quite well.
Yeah, that and then the fucking flesh mecha. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. One of the other things with this was it was a little bit of a design experiment to be to just write stuff and just not really explain it or expand upon it. Kind of what you were doing with your game, Matthew. Just just keep it concise. It's a toolkit. You can refer back to Knave, but I didn't even think they would refer back to Knave. I was just like, just you need to fill in the white spaces. I ain't your daddy.
It is neat that the length of the names actually have an effect in this game. Like the name of your part has an effect depending on the length of words it uses.
Mm, mm. Yeah, no, that's one of the things where it's like, yeah, no, you get creative with naming how those words.
So,
Any
yeah.
other thoughts? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the other things is you managed to find some very amazing bone art for this, which is the only of our 3 games with art.
Yes. That took like 5 minutes to do. I just went on to Pixabay and just searched bone, skeletons, skulls, and then just quickly tried finding black and white sketch art and tried finding things that would fit the dimensions of the white space pages.
Particularly like the one of the skeleton surgeons.
Someone's
Yes, no,
got to
I'm
do it.
glad I could fit that. Yeah. Um, shall we move on to goals then?
Yes, I think in fact we should.
Okay, so I'll just list them all down. First goal, to make the inventory the character sheet. What you carry is what you are. 2, making combat not just about defeating the enemies, but saving the good parts. Combat as a puzzle. And 3, to reward an exploration, loot and shoot, or fight playstyle. So
Well,
the
starting
floor
with
is yours.
starting with the first one, I think you hit that one out of the park. Like you literally are the bones you pick up, name, and the traits they have on them. Your inventory is everything as you put it into yourself, and even like fixing your bones and that is like healing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And like you start off with what is it, 2 plus 2 stats, either doubled on the same one at +4 or spread out until you roll like 2 even numbers on a d8. So you only start out with 2 items, and those are the only stats you have. Is a great start.
Oh, well, you actually start with 4.
4 items.
You start with the 2 mod items, yes, but then you've got a potential 2 items to choose from, 4 options, which are the legs, the fingers, the ribs, or the femur
Mm-hmm.
for your weapon, armor, or movement.
Did I just miss this?
You specifically messaged me going, "What is this unwieldy
Oh!
legs?"
Oh my god! I forgot about that! I can't believe I forgot about your unweary legs. Oh, I know why I forgot about that. I forgot about it because I wasn't going to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring up this fucking heresy.
Oh,
You can't have unweary legs. It's cruel and unusual punishment.
It's just a reference to an old character having
you're
very weary legs.
One of Sun's greatest and recurring characters had weary legs, and it was the greatest thing ever. Is he would just like he'd end a fight and would just sit on a corpse and be like, "Give me a minute, I have to rest my weary legs." And then he's like unweary legs. Fucking
What about the second goal?
yes. No, it very is. I think especially with Rip Dice, it works very well because I mean, you want to max out your inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You want to max out your inventory, and so you have to rip because you want your dice to be potentially kind of smaller almost in a sense because looking at the various tables for like what you're grabbing things from, bigger dice mean you might wind up with no result. Yes.
Yeah, basically, that was slightly up to interpretation. I decided you would always get the last item, but yeah.
I kind
I just
of.
like that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I kind of like the idea of smaller dice being better. It's a rare idea that you're like, oh no, you want your tighter grouping.
Yeah, that was the intention. Like, you want to put your fancy stuff up the top because that's the last thing that'll get damaged, and that's the rarer things that will be ripped out of you.
hmm I like how every stat, like we had said earlier, every stat can be used in combat. And with this being a very focused on tactics and combat, maybe not the minutia of it, but the themes of conflict are constant, every stat is important.
Mm, mm.
I think that really helps towards the second goal where making combat interesting that anyone creative can push for their advantage in combat.
Good, good. I'm glad.
Especially if you steal a
Uh,
powerful item and then flip it on your enemy.
exactly.
Or bearing cursed items in your enemy, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Curse your foes with your own cursed items.
Then what about goal 3? Loot and shoot. Exploration and loot and shoot.
I feel it covers that well. Like a lot of conflicts, you're going to come away with more inventory items. So it is very much a loot and shoot. You are encouraged to get into combat. You're encouraged to take people's stuff when you win. Um, yeah, I think that's nailed down. What do you think, Oscar?
I definitely think it is, especially since the opulent are ruling over something like Iraq. You gotta go find the opulent and then loot and shoot them. And nothing says that your ranged bone attacks can't do rip.
That is true. That is true.
Crapple bones. But
Yeah, no,
yeah.
like, oh, I had an experience running this game, and I'm glad. Like, I'm going to repeat the same things that you said, Matthew. I'm glad that I got to basically do a 3-week game jam. We had a system. We decided what we were going to try and attempt at the start, and then, as best as we could, see if we could follow those, or at least, that's our guideline type of thing. And uh, I wasn't aware of when the actual deadline was. I thought it was on our normal day, which would be our normal recording day. So I was blitzing to just finish it. And then I realized I had 3 days left. And it's like, screw it. I'm done. I'm not touching it. And I'm
That's
glad I
the
got into
way.
that mind state at that point.
Nice.
uh, For me, I wanted to actually hear your thoughts because I don't think it was picked up on, especially since you skipped over it in the bone machine creation section. You need to make 2 choices. Do you want legs or do you want fingers?
Yes, and I actually having looked back, I did read that and I do remember that, but I also remember like, oh, rolling the 1d8 and that like grabbed my attention so hard.
I see. Well, the thing I want to focus is on, do you want 8 movement speed or do you want a ranged attack? Movement speed is an item, and there is an option to not start with it,
Drag your
meaning you have
friend.
no movement speed.
Drag your team or carry your team literally and have them fucking shoot for you.
Oh my god, now I'm just picturing a person who's just legs and hips walking around armed with their allies who are just fingers with blow darts.
Yep.
Uh,
I
but no,
feel
yeah.
as
Go
comical
ahead.
as that is, I'd almost want like another movement option, like some kind of like snake tail or something.
Bone wheels.
There are other, things of the tables.
hmm
Um, but as a starting thing, I was like, you're either, just bipedal or you're crawling on the ground. Or yeah, basically you need to be carried.
And actually, speaking of movement, number 8 is blank. Is that
Uh,
intentional?
n- it isn't blank if you copy and paste it.
Oh, you're doing white tech. Oh, okay. Now I have to see what this is. Okay, so number 8 is carry me. Fair enough. All right. So there's white text on this document.
But yeah, that was the one thing I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna pick up on the fact that you can start with no movement.
I did notice
I did
that.
not. I did not.
Honestly, I was so offended by unweary legs. I instantly was like blow dart fingers every time.
Um,
The entire campaign is us stuck on a rock, waiting for people to come by.
This opulent
Did
rules
you-
this rock, and we can't shoot him. Someone help!
Did you have any sticking out points?
I mean, I already mentioned the flesh mech.
Oh, I would say more on the critiques or like queries.
It's very good that you gave every stat a method of attack. It took a bit for me to figure out how that was meant to work. Like the space in between where you first mention rip dice and sunder dice and where you define what they do is, I think, like a good 3 pages of me being kind of confused about it, which isn't uncommon for RPGs. And it's why I put all my rules at the front.
Fair enough.
Oh, I
I
also...
would own.
Oh, go.
I don't know. It's the item traits are before the rules that explain them, but it's hard with RPGs because they're also supposed to be a reference manual of what order to put things in.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'd actually be better after explaining the fight mechanics, because like I was confused on what are these, and then I'm looking at the next page. Oh, they're this. They're explained right there perfectly. But I don't know if it'd work better putting the items after combat. But then you might have the reverse problem of, oh, it mentions all these things in combat and have to turn the page to find them.
Yeah.
So it's a very minor nitpick, but I don't know if there's a better solution either.
Yeah, that's true. The reference manual.
But beyond that, yeah, no. Thank you. I'm glad that this game jam helped me release something, and it seems like people are interested based on the analytics and the like. But no, I'm happy I made this game, and the fact that it seems like people are interested in it on itch based on the analytics.
Fair.
But beyond that, I think we should move on to Rad Divers by Oscar C. Tango.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, let's get into it. So yes, Rad Divers, my game. So when I've made Rad Divers, I've been wanting to make a post-apocalyptic Knave game for a while. This is not the one that I thought I was going to make. Yeah, no, I had very different ideas when I started with Rad Divers. Or sorry, not with Rad Divers. When I was first like, oh, I want to make a post-apocalyptic Knave game, I had very different thoughts about what I wanted to do. Mostly because I wanted to use the inventory system to kind of expand on that and give items that have like unique beneficial bonuses to gameplay. So stuff like, oh, a bandolier, it lets you reload faster instead of taking an action to reload. But that's not the game I wound up making. Instead, I wound up making a game all about building a sustainable settlement in a post-nuclear apocalypse.
That you did.
Yep.
Indeed. Do you have anything more to go on?
Let's just get into this.
Okay. Matthew, why didn't you start?
All right. Some things that stood out. I liked I like all settlement building, but I enjoyed how the crew had an impact on that. Like you also picked the crew of the settlement and what they were like, and this helped determine what they were good at, whether it was like rationing or, mutants is an option. Your home base has an effect on this, and yeah, there seems to be these 10-week chunks, which is a good set of time for a season where you can get stuff done. It's a lot of interesting ideas rolled around in there in this settlement building. like not getting into the dangers and horrors of the game itself. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, and it's a great starting place.
Hmm. Like, just to jump on top of that, uh, like a decent chunk of this book provides support on the settlement section, uh, and for the crew bit, I don't know if it was the intention, but I got a little bit of thoughts of like RimWorld with like generating your crew and having that prepared with the flaws and the strengths and the like.
My
Um,
God, we
Yeah,
could
eh,
use this for World.
yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Not
exactly.
You're not wrong. This is not my first attempt at making a game with settlement building, but this is, I think, the best I've ever done and the most like, oh, this works that I've ever done. This is the most complete settlement building system I've ever done, and the only one in something I've released.
I'm
Mm.
sorry, I'm now distracted. I'm thinking, what if like we built a World Knave hack?
I mean,
I'll be refocused in a minute. Just
no, go ahead, go ahead, let that process. I know the feeling.
Mhm.
One of my
Um,
permanently on hold projects is a RimWorld game, basically, but fantasy. It's the one with the reality breaking thermal generators that gave you the idea for No Heart.
oh yes, that is a side thing, and my mages will thank me later. I'm sure.
This video will go up 8 weeks later.
It'll be
but
long gone by then.
yeah, no, for you're the uh, for listeners, we went in order of how we did the intro to this podcast, but also the page count, as Oscar's game comes in at 23 pages, and maybe because of that, but I know how Oscar works. He's provided a contents page with hyperlinks. So I really appreciate that. Gets allows me to see immediately what is coming up. And yeah, no, what you mentioned at the end of Bone Machines, you've provided the core rules up front, nice and easy. I don't even need to touch like the whole settlement bit because you've already provided just how to run. Just I'm in the wasteland section part of this game, and now that that's in the back of my mind because it's pretty simple, now I can start getting into the settlement bit. Um, I think that helped organize things in my mind. It's like, okay, that was the simple bit. Now let's get into the meaty chunk that will help support the wasteland scavenging.
Yes, and I'm glad that went off because it really one of the main things about the game was that you're supposed to be building up your settlement. That was literally in my goals, so hopefully I did. I hit one.
Well, well, speaking of that, why don't you mention your goal since we are going to overlap with them now?
Yes. So for my goals for the game, were to focus on limited gear being important by needing lots of stuff to bring in and what you need to then also be able to bring out. Lethality from the environment, where you're more likely to die from something in the environment than necessarily combat, because combat should be a last resort. And a downtime system for building up and preparing your home.
Well, I'm definitely going to say, since we were talking about it, I think you've definitely provided a really good downtime system,
Mhm.
and everything works to emphasize that the seasons and how projects work with the seasons and the resources that you have that feed into those, and how those resources will dip through the seasons, and how you need a crew that will work on these projects and make sure that your home base survives. But the crew themselves are a HP because you're using them to go exploring in the wastelands and they can die. I
Um,
think you definitely locked that one down. What about you, Matthew?
the downtime system, 100%. Uh, that the good chunk of this nails that down in wonderful ways. The second one, lethality of the environment, do 100%. I like the radiation system. I like the armor is more focused on keeping you safe from radiation than external threats like combat.
Yes.
Focus on limited gear. Other than the settlement system and such, I don't see any expansion on the original name equipment other than a handful of items.
Hmm.
So, which is still important. It still hits the goal. Just my thought would be there would be more mechanics if there's going to be a focus there. But the other two are done like to such an extreme that it's almost a moot point.
No, that's also fair.
For me, I want to jump on the armor because I think you did a really good job of doing two things with the armor. You need armor to be able to go into the wastelands, therefore emphasizing how dangerous it is in the environment. But then with the combat being an absolute last resort, when combat occurs, your armor is going to degrade, which thus means you can't stay in the wasteland longer, and you might accidentally have been out in the wasteland too long because you've like dropped 3 armor points by that time.
Yep.
So it really makes the combat going, oh shit, type of situation.
So I missed an entire page called equipment, so I want to take back my last statement. Sorry, Oscar.
Oh, you didn't see the equipment page? No, you know what? That would absolutely make it seem like I didn't focus on inventory. You're right.
My bad. My bad, guys.
All good. All good.
And then, yes, the equipment and, limited gear and the like. I think you've provided a nice, succinct equipment list for individual characters, and mixed with the armor points each being an item slot. You need to decide how much armor you want to have on you, and how many items you're going to take with you to go do something, and space to bring back. There's that balance, and having to decide what you want to do there. That immediately ties into all, maybe not the third point, but definitely ties into those 2 points, limited gear and the environment.
Yes.
So a nice puzzle.
I will say one other thing I wanted to do for armor. Specifically, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a 6 armor thing for the final tier of armor with the rad diving suit. But I was like, no, I'll put in a 6 armor option. It's going to be really expensive. It costs 200 more than the previous one for 1 extra point of armor, which every other armor scales up in points of 2. So, 1 armor, 3 armor, 5 armor, and then you get 6.
Yeah.
There is a limit, and it is almost not worth it.
And minor things, I like how you renamed your attributes. It's a small thing, but I think it aids to just putting a certain flavor across, and it gets it away from the D&D concept, vibes, I should say. So, small minor things like that. And you've provided a nice little referee section, which I think is definitely nice and aids into running this game in a way to emphasize the Red Divers gameplay style.
Yeah. The referee section with tricks 1 through 4 on how to make this game playable.
I must say... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Matthew.
I think it's really awesome you're able to write this, because I can never write advice, because my advice is play more different games and you'll just get it. That's always my GMing advice to people. Just play more different systems, you'll figure it out. So it's always interesting to see someone be able to put that into words on a page.
Yeah. That was actually the hardest part to write. But I was like, I put in these mechanics and I didn't explain them because they aren't for players. Time to put them in for the referee.
Fair.
Now, something I'm deeply disappointed in you, Oscar, with your monster.
Oh, the weak monster?
Why was it not a mutated bear?
Because I decided that for once in OSR, something shouldn't be a bear.
Ah,
How dare you?
I know. Well, actually, no.
I
Hold on.
mean,
I think. Oh wait, did I not write the section? Oh. Oh no! I meant to include actually a reference to a mutated bear in here, and I forgot to put it in. Oh no! Actually, oh shit.
ah.
It, I,
If you added that in, I would have been okay with that.
it was
But
supposed to be.
you,
This is the line where it says in the context of popular fiction, this is a death claw. It should have been death claw or Yao Guai.
okay. Then I would have been okay.
Ah, no. Ah, shit. And I'm not changing it now. I'm not gonna edit that in. That flaw must remain in austerity for my shame.
And then yes, this just goes into me knowing what you like. You provided an extensive monster maker system.
Yeah. Did you notice how the health cheats super hard?
Yeah, yeah.
Balance is for cowards. Balance is a
And
myth.
like, there's another thing that the health scales quite high, but also combat shouldn't be option number one.
Yeah, don't fight. The strongest enemy in the game, and there are no rules against making this or balance advice saying don't do it, is 160 health with 11 armor, which means that, and you can do a maximum of 12 in this game. You can do 1 damage to a 160 armor enemy, and it takes a 20 to hit it. At which point, actually, I will say, I believe by the rules of combat, you do strip monster armor, unless I took that out because I wanted to cheat more. Did I want to cheat more? Who can say?
I cannot remember about monster stripping armor.
It may be in combat.
Damaging armor.
Oh, no,
You
yeah.
reduce enemy armor, reduces incoming damage. Yeah. So you strip
Wow.
it down.
Oh, yeah, you do strip it. Yeah, because I wanted criticals to be really weird in this game. Because the whole idea is, oh, your target is 15, unless it's an opposed roll. So I was like, no, what if the target was still 15? So that becomes a critical. You get a bonus effect. You strip armor.
With that, did you have any other thoughts, Matthew, before we just ask Oscar to give his thoughts?
No. All in all, it's a nice, clean, compact game.
Yeah, no, I really like what you've done here, Oscar. Good job. And you finally made your Apocalypse game and published it.
I did. I finally, I did. And it came out
So-
before Wastoids came out in full.
So, what did you learn? Like, what were the things that like stuck out to you while you're doing this design?
As usual, making items that aren't just weapons or magical, or weapons that do spell effects is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's a good exercise to do. Oh, actually, this one's an interesting one. If you have an idea for how something works, so okay, something I normally do, and people wouldn't know this behind the scenes, is that I tend to have a master document, quote unquote, and anytime there's something I need to figure out, I will write out like options for how I want to do it, pick an option and flesh it out on a separate document, and then as I'm working on the master document, when I get to that part, port it in. And that makes writing longer games easier. Because it's not about, oh, hey, I need to make this thing now. It's, okay, so I have this thing that needs to work in this way. And I need to outline it clearly for people. So here's the idea, here's all the sections about how it should work outlined, and then suddenly you realize that you've got like 5 pages on this 1-page proposal that you originally had. That's why my games get so long. I write out a core concept and then I'm like, alright, how do I make this work? Here's the details.
Interesting.
Oh, I like it. I definitely understand what you talk about. I like having like a master document too. That's just my notes full of crap that I'll just refer to.
Oh, your version
like
of a master document is very different from mine.
I'll do like a large line to be like, okay, a new version of this crap.
Yeah, that's valid.
What was your favorite part of Rad Divers? Anything? The process, a little mechanic,
The
anything?
sample projects are, I think, some of my favorites because originally you weren't going to need specialists to do projects, but originally specialists were supposed to be more expensive 2-for-1s on recruits. And I decided that that was a boring idea, and actually they should be used to operate your like proper projects. And then so I had a lot of fun writing out the projects and being like, how does this person, how does a physicist get you infinite energy? Oh, well, they get you a nuclear power plant. And I think, oh right, the anti-rad sweeper is my favorite item I've ever written.
Why is that?
So it is a project, and the description is that it is a paperclip maximizer that has a broken battery. So the whole thing is it converts ambient radiation into energy in an attempt to make like a never-ending, like properly self-sustaining paperclip maximizer. But the battery is broken and it will waste its charge and then suck in radiation again, which is how it's able to permanently keep an area clear of radiation. Paperclip maximizers are a proposed method of destroying the world. So there was a nuclear apocalypse while some moron was working on a fucking paperclip maximizer. And you have to go find that and turn it into something to stop radiation.
Ah, I see. All right, so this would be a neat little reference for people that know of that concept.
Yup.
Yeah. Okay.
My favorite item. The second apocalypse on the verge of happening.
Always gotta have another one in your pocket.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Would you expand upon this game, second edition, build upon it, supplements?
It's outright changing the game? Probably not. I consider this pretty finished, but I might reskin it, like, I mean, we were talking about the RimWorld thing, but like, no, like colony building in space habitat building, and instead of radiation, it's oxygen and vacuum. Like, it wouldn't be hard to reskin this as a potential supplement, but in terms of actual, like, mechanical updates or changes, nah. I like it.
Okay.
Especially like how the monsters cheat super hard.
No, yeah. I think you did a good job there, and you hit all 3 points.
Now that I found the equipment page.
Yeah, that really helps with the inventory focus.
Well, with that then, should we wrap it? Are there any closing thoughts on this whole experience from us three? Matthew, do you have any thoughts?
I would love to do something like this again, or if we ever do it, do a joint venture where we all work on one project. Because we were all able to stick to our goals, so we might be able to someday do a joint project like this in like this crammed amount of time. But that's just a thought.
That's definitely an interesting design challenge concept.
As long as we all could agree on the goals, I think we'd be able to do it.
Knave, world.
I'm not opposed to this idea.
Oh, we'd kill each other. Group projects always end badly. I've always seen.
The Beyond the Dragon episode that never comes to fruition, and then for some reason, no more episodes after that.
Oh yeah. So excited for their next hack project. Why does episode 40 never come out?
No, I'm definitely excited for the next challenge, and I would love to have you on again for it too, Matthew.
Yes.
I would love to do this again. This was a great change of pace.
If other members of the collab had time, we could invite them as well. We'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah, we'll see what people are up to.
And maybe potentially get more community involvement.
Yes.
That would also be awesome. Though I don't know how much that... Well, there's a couple people on here who design for different systems.
Yep. Well, I will say, on the subject of community engagement, for everyone watching, like, the timing of you watching this is a bit weird, because part 1 is for you about 11 weeks ago, or no, 12 weeks ago. This is being recorded 8 weeks ago, 8 weeks in the past. We were recording this, I'm going to date this, on November 16th, 2022. So, you know, like, I could understand why if you were like, oh, I would have liked to do a jam with them. I'm going to say something right now. This episode is out, it's up, you're listening to it. There will be a link in the description towards an itch.io jam for for just Knave hacks. Make your own game. Yeah. Participate.
Yeah, no. We can definitely do that. Hell yeah, I like that idea. When we release this, we basically do like a Beyond the Dragon Knave hack jam in kind of celebration of this episode.
Yes. Hack our games. Hack your game. Hack any game, as long as it's Knave. Hack a Knave. Hack a Knave Descendant. Hack Grave for your first Knave game, like I did.
Hey, Matthew, you said you were considering doing like a Mega Man with my game. Do it then.
Sure am.
Join in.
Thinking about it.
You'll have 4 weeks from the release of this episode, so that way you can get the experience that we more or less had. Do it in a month.
Fair. Yeah.
And then we would have to, well, for the next design challenge for us, we're gonna have to figure out which system next. Because it won't be Knave, it'll be something else that we've done.
It will be something else, yes.
And probably more than 7 pages, so I should read that system before we get there.
I will be sure to tell you about it before this next time. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting you to be like, oh damn, I wish I could participate. I was like, oh shit, we should invite Oni. We should get Matthew on here.
I'm still impressed that you were like, oh yeah, I'll join on the day that we announced that we've recorded the intro.
Yeah, there's a second intro that you won't hear that's just me and Sun, and then we got Matthew in and it was like, yeah, are you ready? You were like, yeah, I took 5 minutes, I read the system, it has good bones, I can make something with this.
Don't sugarcoat anything.
But with that, I guess we can wrap things up here.
Sounds good.
Indeed. So I would like to thank you all for joining us today as we discussed our own hacks of Knave. Join us next time for more indie tabletop discussion and design. I've been Oscar C. Tango, and joining me has been Sun Gone and Matthew. Pauze?
Pauze. It's French. Don't worry about getting it right. No one else can.
Okay, fair enough. I took French in high school. I might be able to get it right if I tried really hard. I wasn't good at French, but I took it.
You can find me at sungone_ on Twitter, Sun on Start Playing Games, and Sungone on itch.io and YouTube.
And Matthew, where can we find you?
Oh, if you go to Google and type in Warlock Sanctum Games, I'm sure one of my projects will come up, whether it's paid GMing or stuff I did 12 years ago, or the Warlock Sanctum design contest that disappeared out of my grasp after the first 2 episodes, and apparently there's 13 somewhere. But yeah.
All right. And then you can find me at Stranded TTRPG on Twitter, Oscar C. Tango on startplaying.games, and Stranded Publishing on itch.io, and you can find all of those links in the description. And remember, don't be afraid to adventure beyond the dragon.